Okay, now moving on, the next one, section 13(1)(c). Okay, section 13(1)(c), if you can recall, it is actually referred to living accommodation given by the employer to employee. Okay, what kind of accommodation can be given to the employee? So there are two different types. You can see there. Under number 1, okay, you are given the house, bungalow, apartment, condominium. Okay, when you are given this kind of accommodation, okay, you will be assessed based on the value of unfurnished, okay, unfurnished living accommodation. Why unfurnished? Because if you are given the fully furnished, okay, accommodation, remember, the furniture part is all assessed under 13(1)(b) because you use. Okay, we value based on the use or enjoyment of the benefits. Okay, so therefore we only want to assess the value for the living condition based on the value of the house. Okay, so there is a formula we use in order to compute defined value. Okay, in order to compute defined value, so it's the lower of, okay, lower of comparing defined value. Okay, how do we compute defined value? Okay, defined value is actually based on the rental value of the house. Okay, rental value of the house. So if let's say the landlord allow us to rent for the condominium for 5,000 because it's fully furnished. So we have to value how much is the rental for the furniture. So we only take the net amount from the total rental of 5,000. So if let's say per month is 5,000, the value of the furniture is about 500. So meaning the portion that will be taxed on you will be 5,000 minus 500. It will be 4,500 per month. And multiply by number of months that you stay inside the house. So it can be time apportioned if it is less than a year. Okay, and the next thing is that you also will compute if you stay inside the house, you share for other purpose. Okay, you might share for, let's say the house is too big, so sometimes the house also being used by the employer when they want to entertain their visitor, for instance. Okay, so we just tax you based on the portion that you use, okay, to stay inside the house. Alright, and then please take note that, okay, when we compare, so that is how we compute the defined value. And then the next one, we compare the defined value against 30% of 13(1)(a). So, so meaning that the comparison will be against 30% of 13(1)(a). So this 13(1)(a), if you can still recall, is all the total of income that you receive in the form of money. Okay, so for the purpose to compute under 13(1)(c), when in this part, when you want to compute 30% of 13(1)(a), 13(1)(a) shall exclude share option. Okay, if there are share option given, okay, you enjoy that benefits. Therefore, okay, that amount shall be excluded from the total 13(1)(a). Okay, so it is excluded of share option. Okay, so when we compute defined value, then we take 30% of 13(1)(a), then we compare whichever is lower, then that lower amount will be figures that we use to compute our tax, okay, to value the use of unfurnished living accommodation. Okay, and then sometimes, alright, you might also, employer also allow you, okay, to stay inside the hotel or hostel. Okay, the hotel or hostel. Alright, so in this case, what will happen is that for hotel, it's a straightforward computation. If you are given the hotel, just ignore whatever information given. You only need to know, okay, 3%. Okay, you just calculate 3% multiply by 13(1)(a). If you stay less than a year, therefore multiply by 12 months. Okay, multiply by number of months that you stay. Okay, so that is for hotel. The same thing with the hostel as well. Hostel means if you are factory workers, the one that common, they will stay at a rented house, okay, or their hostel. and then they will transport from the house to the company office or factory, isn't it? Okay, so that's what happened. Alright, so for 13(1)(c), okay, I want you to look at example of 3.16. Okay, there is one example whereby you would have a complete, okay, these are the one, 6.35. Okay, so these are the one where you would have a complete example of how to compute living accommodation, value for living accommodation. So this is comprehensive example, para 3.6, okay, example 6.36 under the new textbook. So you can see here under A, okay, this is where normal circumstances whereby you stay for 12 months, and then you just take the value of living accommodation based on the defined value compared against 30% of 13(1)(a). Okay, under the second example, okay, this is where you have situation where you need to time a portion. Okay, time a portion. So what they do is that they just compute the lower amount, then multiply by 6/12. So for this one, sometimes you have to be careful. Okay. Alright, for C, it's actually referring to when you share. Okay, you do sharing. Okay, stay in the house on a sharing basis. So you will just be taxed on your shared portion. And lastly, you might use also sharing, but this is where with the employment. Okay, so again, they are the basis that you need to determine. Okay, so that is for 13(1)(c). So you have to know this is for living accommodation. Therefore, you actually comparing defined value and 30% of 13(1)(a). Okay, so the defined value should be the unfurnished portion. So whatever the value of the rental minus the rental for the furniture. Okay, and then compare against 30% of 13(1)(a). So that is if you are given living accommodation. If you are given hotel or hostel, straight away 3% of 13(1)(a). Straight away 3% of 13(1)(a). Okay, next one, move on, will be 13(1)(d), employer's contribution to unapproved fund. Okay, this is when because normally every employee would have EPF, Employers Provident Fund. So this is actually compulsory and mandatory, and it is actually approved by the Ministry of Government. Okay, so that is EPF. However, this is nothing to do with EPF. Okay, this is where the company set up their own fund, okay, for the purpose of retirement, which employee need to pay on monthly basis. Alright, okay. However, it is not approved by the ministry, okay, relevant ministry. Alright, so for that matter, because when every month you contribute, of course, it's a lump sum or a lot sum of money, okay, and sometimes you can withdraw and invest, okay. So you would have income from utilizing that particular fund. Okay, so it's actually works similar to EPF. Only thing is that this one is considered as an unapproved fund. Okay, so what do we do? Okay, when we have employer's contribution to unapproved fund, the moment you withdraw, okay, the moment you withdraw, you receive from that fund, okay, then only you will be taxed, okay, then only you will be taxed based on the what portion? It will based on the portion of amount contributed by employer and interest earned. Only these two portions will be taxed. Okay, only these two portions will be taxed. Whatever, because the one that contributed by the employee, that one is actually taken from gross salary. Okay, so that's why that part is not taxable. So that is 13(1)(d), and finally 13(1)(e). Okay, 13(1)(e) is actually referring to compensation for the loss of employment. Okay, compensation for the loss of employment. So this is when you're already like being terminated, okay, you've been retrenched whatsoever. Therefore, company compensate you. Okay, company compensate you. So here, in normal circumstances, any compensation for the loss of employment, you will get total exemption if you're being sacked or asked to resign because of ill health reason. Okay, so in that case, whatever gratuity amount that you receive will be exempted. And then partial exemption. Alright, so if it is taxable, therefore you will go for partial exemption, 10,000 per completed years of service. Okay, so let's look at the example. So this employee started work on 1st July 2008, and then 1st September 2019. Okay, she was being terminated and being paid 118,000. Okay, so what do we do? Alright. So when you being retrenched, so that will be considered as a compensation for the loss of employment. Okay, so for that matter, this is the method of computation. So how much will be included under 13(1)(e)? Okay. So compensation for the loss of employment that you receive is 118,000, and then minus exemption 10,000 per completed years. So how do you compute completed years? The one that I highlighted at the bottom. So it's starting from 1st July until 30th June next year. So every year you counted. So what is the total number of completed years that you have? Multiplied by 10,000 per annum. Okay, so that is actually how do we treat compensation for the loss of employment under 13(1)(e). So finally, we come to the format of computation. So the format of computation is actually follow in a way we present in accordance to the law. Alright, so this is only the, you just begin. Alright, so this is the first section. Okay, which is section 4B, employment income. So under section 4B, we will compute total gross income that we have. Okay, so it based on each category or respective category whereby you have 13(1)(a) up until 13(1)(e). So we total up all the income from 13(1)(a) category up until 13(1)(b), 13(1)(e). Okay, so that will give you total gross income, gross employment income, and minus deductible expenses. So for employment income, there is not that many in terms of expenses that can be deducted. Okay, of course there are few. Alright, so what are those few that can be deducted? So if you refer to page 158, you have the list there, case loss principle. So it just mentioned that what are the expenses that actually can be deducted against employment income. Okay. So of course, after you have gross income, you minus some deductible expenses. Therefore, you would derive to adjusted employment income. Okay, so once you get your adjusted employment income, now it will be considered as not full format of tax computation. Okay, so refer to that particular example, example of 7.11. And also up until the end at 7.13. So you can see the full format, okay, for section 4B alone. Okay, section 4B alone, how the questions are given, and from the question we transform into computation. Okay, so you do have example 17.11, okay, quite detailed, which you have all 13(1)(a), B, C, and also E. Alright, and then example 7.12 is actually when you would have two employer. Okay, so there are different situation. Alright, so this is what you need to master. Okay, the format definitely, and you need to know which go where and so on in terms of items in between respective section. Okay, so basically that's all about employment income that you need to know. Alright, so going back to the earlier on the outline, you can still see that okay, we do actually focus on this one okay, definition, derivation and types of employment income. Of course, for the computation purpose, okay, we use the format from 13.1a up until 13.1e. Okay, so basically that's all for employment income. Please do your homework and I will check one by one similar to last class. That's all. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.